Oh, hello.
Hello.
We started on the wrong camera angle.
Oops.
Oh, hold on a second here. Hi, there's Mary.
Hello.
There we go. Hi, this is Robert Morales, RCO Network, coming at you live here and at RCO Network. Good people, better business, discovering the best of you. Today is Wednesday. It's called The Inner Journey with Miss Mary and Alstyne.
Hello.
I
I thought the voice wasn't matching the face on the screen.
Yeah, that was technically my technical mistake, but that's fine. So we're here every Wednesday at the 2-3 something hour. Wednesday afternoons.
Yeah.
So just tune in on our channels somewhere, and we explore emotions. The Inner Journey is a show that we hope that in this recognition of this life and the things that we embark upon, that we're able to kind of translate that to you and in a way where it's constructive and provide you things that experiences that we've had in our life to
Help.
So simple.
Simple.
We construct things so complicated at times, and sometimes just letting go and just being simple about things, I think is definitely helpful.
Absolutely.
So we talked today, and we came up with a show topic for today regarding balance. I came across a situation where somebody said that, you have a lot of anger in you. And I said, yeah, I do. She's like, well, you need to let that go and you need to find balance in your life. And I said, I think I do have balance in my life. And I choose consciously to hold on to this anger because I use it as a tool. I think, as Mary and I were talking, I think so many people regard balance as letting go of anger and finding this eternal happiness. To live on a beach somewhere with martinis and not give a worry to the world. I think that's what people's concept of what balance is, but that's really not balance, right?
Yeah, and I think another thing that people think is balance is living this kind of, very... I always call it flatline. I don't know what else to call it, but
Stagnant.
avoid and stagnant. Yeah, avoid any discomfort, avoid any any feelings too strong in either way, because they see that as balance, and really that's just avoiding emotion. It's not balance at all.
Yeah, and so many people, again, just choose to stay away from like depression or away from, and I mean, really should. I mean, when you turn sadness into depression, you kind of fallen along one side of the spectrum versus, happiness and being too happy and too fake happy, I think is the other side of that spectrum where you're just overly doing it and you're really kind of absent of yourself. I think happiness in itself is kind of avoidant in its way too.
Inauthentic happiness, I think, is an avoidance.
Well, I'm happy right now.
I'm happy right now too, and I don't think it's an avoidance. I think it's when we tip that scale and we put on that mask of that false happiness, or we're not really truly happy from the inside. We're just putting something on to appear happy. That's the avoidance right there, I think.
Absolutely.
I think.
So we're here to actually talk about that balance. So if you want to leave your comments or questions in the comment section below and give us a little like, hearts. Hearts always help too. If you're on YouTube right now, hit the little like button and hit subscribe because you want to hear more about Mary's life.
Yes.
And she has a lot of life to share.
A lot of life to share, yeah.
I do too. But again, we're here to bring you tips and different ways to really, I guess, hold on and control those emotions. Because this whole journey that we're on in life, I think, in my reflection, in my time here, it's like there's so much of this physical body that is controlling us. We have control over our, the way we do things, our career, everything else, everything very tangible. But exploring this emotion I think is that bridge to our spiritual realm and our spiritual connection with God or whatever you choose to believe. And so our time here on this planet, our time here on this earth, I truly believe is to explore those emotions and really have a connection with those and understand those so that we can carry that on to whatever it is. If it's the next life, if it's heaven, if it's whatever it is you decide to be.
I agree, and it can absolutely help you in your life to excel once you learn you learn about your emotions, you embrace them, you honor them, and you learn how to use them, right, in order to guide you. I mean, there's so many things that they do instead of suppressing them and pushing them away in an attempt to live this comfortable kind of life. It can be a really powerful tool for all areas of your life when you learn to embrace and balance that. Yeah.
And when you're, so what's wrong with you?
What's wrong with me? A lot of things. Depends on who you ask, I guess.
Yeah. So the name of the show is What's Wrong with You? And I think, we were talking about that. That's a normal question for when people find you upset or frustrated. And that's also the same question when they find you overly happy.
Exactly. Yeah. It's not, it's like there's this expectation for you to be in this little space of not too good, not too bad, and that's the norm, right? And anything outside of that, it's like, what is wrong with you? Something's got to be wrong with her. She's too happy. Something's got to be wrong with him. He's too depressed, So what is wrong with you? Nothing. I think that polarity is very healthy to feel those different ranges of emotion.
And I think some people fish out that, they want to know that you're either really happy or really sad. I think I'm compelled to always find somebody or something to work on. And if somebody was to come up to me and say, yeah, I'm fine, I know, okay, I'd get very dismissive. But if somebody's having ills or pains or is having some sort of turmoil, I'm there, I'm very present. And I don't know why. I don't know what that is. I don't know what that motive. Actually, I do, but we're kind of being a little cheeky for the show today. But so we're going to provide you 5 tips, the 5 tips we come up with to have a balanced, or at least a more balanced life.
Or to work towards that, like the just little steps you can take to start to discover and work towards that balance or that, learning more about your emotions and how to embrace them, that kind of thing.
And I think between Mary and I, we had a lot of experiences. We've shared those offline, and also been well read and well versed in a lot of different areas. And we offer a lot of contrast between the two of us. So hopefully these tips, they're not based in science in any way. So don't believe, just call them Mary's tips.
Oh no.
Or Robert's tips, whatever you want to do.
How about just tips?
Here's your 5 tips to an emotionally balanced life. So tip number 1 is your intentions. I think we have to identify what our intentions are. So if you have your notepad ready, if you have your phone, grab your phone, put your little notes in there. So tip number 1 is know your intentions. Why do we need to know our intentions, Ms. Mary?
Oh, because the power of human intention is everything. When you intend to do something, when you have an intention to do something, that's when, whatever works in your mind, the subconscious, I'm not going to get into all the science of it, actually goes out and seeks the answers to whatever your intentions you're putting out there. So having a clear intention on anything, including the intention to learn more about our own emotions, right? That's got to be very firm, that intention. There's got to be intention behind everything. Otherwise, you're just kind of spinning out of control, going in all kinds of directions. So intention.
And what I've discovered too, like what I've done with the RCO network, it wasn't until I actually wrote down our mission statement, our vision statement. Our mission statement is really what we're here to do as far as a company goes, and our vision statement is what we want to do in the future. And it wasn't until I really wrote that down, and that was only like 6 months ago. We've been doing this stuff for like 5 years. I finally got around to writing this stuff down. So I wrote a mission statement, and everything we embark upon, every new challenge or decision that we come across as a business, and even as a person, I reference back to that. Because am I following my mission? I think for a lot of people out there, it's like the Bible. That's kind of their mission statement in a way, if there's a metaphor for that. But I think everybody needs that kind of verbiage or that language to follow, or at least lean on it and to remind themselves of why they're actually doing this.
Yeah, it's kind of like your GPS directions, right? You got to put something in there. This is where I want to go, not just, otherwise you're just going to be driving around in circles. So it is kind of your roadmap. This is like your determination. That's the power of intention.
Yeah, and I used to think it was hokey, like sitting down and you talk to a coach, and if anything, we're kind of your coaches. You sit down to a coach and they're like, well, what's your 5-year plan?
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I don't know what I'm going to do in 5 years. Yeah. I'm barely figuring out what I'm going to do 5 hours from now. I'm barely figuring out what I'm going to eat for lunch.
And once you write an intention, the interesting thing is it's almost like a magical thing that happens, because I've written intentions before and not really referenced them very often, but looked back maybe a year or 6 months, a year down the road and gone, holy cow, like everything that I wrote in this intention, somehow that's the road that I was traveling down, or those are the things that happened, right? And I tie it right back to, that's how powerful having that intention is, and writing it down. Not just thinking of it, but
yeah. And I think posting it, or at least a reference point on it. If you want to put it on the back of your door, like I used to know a friend that had a mirror behind her door, and every time she closed it said, "Smile, you're beautiful."
Yes.
Even that's an intention.
Exactly.
That's an intention to remind yourself, like, hey, you're very present and you're very beautiful. It doesn't matter what other people think.
Exactly.
It's how you view yourself. And so I think posting that somewhere, whether it's on your phone, I mean, even every time you log on your phone, it's just there, having your intentions, or at least kind of your mission or vision statement, something with your intent. Writing it down, I think, is definitely beneficial.
Yeah, I'm guilty of having the drawer full of dry erase markers and my bathroom mirror constantly being written on with something that I want to, it's something I want to focus on for the day. It's like, what are you thinking? Or, breathe, or I am enough, or like all these different things that I write on my mirror. It's like that. I mean, it really brings that to my awareness throughout the day, just because I wrote that and I see it every time I go into that room. So yeah, it's very powerful.
So number two. So if you guys got your pens and paper ready, does anybody use pen and paper anymore?
Sometimes.
I do. Look at I got these note things all everywhere.
I definitely do. Yeah.
But that's because we're old, Mary.
No.
Older?
Older. We're so young.
Oh boy. So number two. So if you got your pen ready, write down number two. Other one is acknowledgement. Right? Acknowledging your feelings. I think a lot of the times we sit down and we ignore. Whether it's a good or bad feeling. I think, again, most of us always lean towards I just want to be happy, or we kind of lie to our family or friends and say, no, I'm happy, but internally, no, whatever that, acknowledging whatever that feeling is at the time, and understanding and being very present with that feeling, I think is the second most important part, whether it's good or bad.
Yeah, because once you acknowledge it, you have like kind of honored it, like I was saying a little bit earlier, and you allow yourself to feel it, because what the saying is, what you resist persists. So if you're constantly denying this emotion or this feeling that's coming up versus going, okay, this is what I'm feeling, because somehow you think it's not okay, you're going to shove it down. It's just going to keep popping its head up over and over and over again, because what you're attempting to do is just resist that feeling versus acknowledging it and going, okay, and this is like a first step really in learning to not be in this little spectrum of everything's okay and I'm numb, right? And just being able to go, yes, no, I am angry, right? Acknowledge that. Or I am sad, acknowledge that. Or I am happy and I'm feeling bliss, acknowledge that, because sometimes we feel guilty about feeling really good. I know I've felt that way before. Sometimes people around you think something's wrong with you, like we said before. So, yeah.
Well, I think sometimes you feel guilty feeling good because other people around you aren't feeling as good.
Could be, yeah.
And if you start like, oh, I'm happy, and then everybody else is like, well, why are you so happy for?
Yeah, what's wrong with you, right?
What's wrong with you? That's the name of the title.
I knew that was going to be a good title.
Mary came up with the title today.
Oh, it dropped out from the sky.
So acknowledging that, and I think understanding that the bad isn't always bad. I hate, placing labels on things regarding like this is good and that's bad, because I think even happiness is not necessarily a good thing to be 100% of the time. Because in my experience too, like if you're constantly just always happy, you're somewhat complacent too. You're somewhat distant from the things you're trying to avoid on the other side.
Yeah, because you're lacking the polarity.
Yeah, I mean it's like smoking weed and constantly being high all the time. You're just separating yourself from doing other things.
Well, if you were always happy and never sad, you wouldn't really know that you were happy, right?
Correct.
Like if you've never felt sadness, how would you know you were happy?
I smoked a lot of pot.
Well, yeah.
That isn't an issue. It is very
Back in the day. Yeah.
Anyway, so again, acknowledging that there are feelings there will and very, very present, that you're not alone in any of this stuff, because Mary and I will tell you that we've been through the whole gamut between divorce and I think you've had some different experiences. We both had weight loss. I mean, there's just so many different things that people experience.
Near-death experiences, and
there was
all kinds of
there was
things.
one time I thought I was going to die, but actually there was multiple. There's so. But again, acknowledging and knowing that you're not alone in any of this stuff.
Yeah, and basically doing this acknowledgement process, you begin to give yourself permission to have feelings and emotions where previously you attempted to maybe shove those down or shame yourself about them, right? So it's a journey, just like everything else. It's just that small little action of acknowledgement makes it okay. You're giving yourself permission, so and you can open yourself up to more emotions that are going to allow themselves to come through.
Correct. So we're about halfway through the show.
All right.
So if you like what you're seeing, go ahead and hit the like button, hit that heart emoji, because you love it and you love us.
And we love emojis.
Because we love you and we love emojis. Robert Morales, our Studio Network. Mary Van Alstyne. Barry Van Alstyne. See you
Very
there.
banal.
We're coming at you here with the inner journey, talking about emotions and feelings, and giving you 5 tips. We're through 2. We got 3 more left through the show today. So the first 2 is know your intentions. Write them down. Write down your intentions.
As simple as it can be. Yeah.
The other 2 is acknowledge your feelings. Acknowledge that they're very present in your life. That is number 2. So get ready, your pens. For number 3. All right, let me get rid of the music. Okay. So number 3 is immersion. So sometimes when you come across things in your life that you're afraid of and that you are avoiding, sometimes it's about just putting yourself there in that moment. You know, there was a good example when I was right after my divorce and I first got into my first real relationship. You know, I sat there in my living room as everything was in the truck, ready to be moved to this person's place. And I sat there contemplating whether or not this was, you know, where I should be. I was afraid to get into new relationships. I was afraid to move out of this place I felt so comfortable in. You know, I told myself, you know, you're battling, you know, just being disappointed before from another person. You just need to move forward. And I sat there for nearly, I want to say about 30 minutes or so. And I just said, screw it. I'm just going to go with it. You know, it was one of the not the greatest decisions to ever make, looking in hindsight. But as I reflect back, it was actually a really good decision because I embraced myself. I embraced that fear one last time. And I actually gave myself an opportunity to I guess, fall in love with somebody, or at least have that feeling of falling in love. I don't. Looking back, I don't think I fell in love with her per se, but I did have those feelings. Mm-hmm. You know, I wouldn't say that. You know, just in case she's watching. It wasn't, no. But immersion. So, you know, have you had experiences regarding like putting yourself there, putting yourself very present with those emotions?
Absolutely. Several. I've kind of been the one since I was young to, if something scares me, I jump in, you know, because it allows me to feel certain emotions and move through them. Whereas before, like we said before, trying to protect ourselves and keep ourselves safe in this little bubble so we don't have to feel. And I think that those times that I did that, I did classical voice for a little while and did a recital that scared me and forgot all my words on stage and ran back and cried. And had I not had that experience, I wouldn't even know. No. Right. Another example would be getting into a new relationship after a failed one. And I remember consciously making a decision that, you know, if I'm going to experience the love and the joy to the level that I want to experience them, I am going to go in with a full open heart and I'm going to love how I want to love. And that's full immersion, right? That's stepping outside your comfort zone. So it's like one thing that I would say as a tip is to a sub tip maybe is to recognize when you have an urge to withhold or not fully immerse or stay in your comfort zone, like really make a conscious decision to step outside of it and do something that would maybe raise that fear feeling or whatever it is, because then you have that powerful opportunity to feel the fear, acknowledge it, embrace it, honor it, and then go through it and come out on the other side where, you know, sometimes you may not experience the best success like you were saying, or sometimes you can experience the greatest success you ever have in any area of your life. So I would say for me, it's just like step outside your comfort zone and just have that awareness of like, I'm trying to stay comfortable right now. Okay, what does that mean? What can I do? Right? So that's kind of...
Yeah, and I guess to add to that too, you know, embracing both ends. Because at any point, it could be like falling in love again or allowing yourself to love somebody. That could end in one of two ways, right? It could either be the greatest thing ever, like the best decision you ever made, or it could be a complete crash and burn. But that's okay, you know? And coming from a divorce, that was a complete crash and burn. But at the same time, as I look back, I'm like, that was one of the greatest experiences I had, you know? Yeah. And I was able to understand both sides of things, and I was able to reflect, and I wouldn't be here talking to you guys if it wasn't for that divorce.
Right.
That's for sure. So you guys are lucky. Maybe, I don't know. Hold on.
Yes. Oh, there you go.
I have a laugh track. Yeah. Anyway. But, you know, so some of the best things out of turmoil and taking chances can manifest on their own without you realizing it, because that probably wasn't even your plan. Or maybe it was somebody else's.
well.
Land out there somewhere.
Yeah, and there is no value in avoiding life experiences in order to avoid pain, because then you're going to suffer that pain of feeling dead inside. You know what I mean? So it's like, embrace it, do the thing that scares you, go out, give it your all. And if you get hurt or something doesn't work out, there's a life lesson in there for you. So it's always good. It always turns out good. No matter how bad the situations, I've been in some pretty bad ones, I've been able to, with some work, go back and learn from what I needed to learn from those situations. Had I kept myself in the safe zone, I would not have those experiences.
Yeah, and I would say if there's a footnote to that, if there is a footnote to any of this, in this number 3, immersion, it's that if you're repeating certain patterns, you're meeting the same type of person, personality, that's a definite point of reflection for you to like think and take a step back and say, why do I keep coming across this? What have I not learned previously? And what can I do? What can I change about that? So that's that part of immersion is like if you, again, recognize over a set time that you keep running across the same people, you're probably not out of that mindset yet. If you keep running across people who are constantly in turmoil, you're probably still there yourself too. Something to think about.
Good footnote, yes.
Are we ready for number 4, Miss?
Yes, we are.
So number 4, if you guys are writing down, please write. The first one, 0, knowing your intentions or your intention. Second one is acknowledgement of your feelings. Third one is immersing yourself in those feelings. The fourth one, you ready? Is learning. Just simply learning. So I think over the course of these last, I got divorced about 7 years ago, something like that.
That was a cool noise.
That was my finger calculator.
Yeah.
And so it was about 7 years ago that I really started to wanting to change. And it took 2 major events, not only divorce, but me leaving a previous career. It took 2 major events, and my attorney said, hey, you're going to do this. So it took, 3 major events to really start wanting to change. I think that's probably the first part of learning is wanting to learn. And there's so many different ways you can learn, not about necessarily life, but about yourself, and I think I leaned on a lot of books, audiobooks. I was on YouTube, and I think you've done audio too, right?
Yeah, audiobooks, yeah, absolutely.
What are other ways you can learn that about all these feelings and exploring some of the stuff?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of different personal growth arenas that you can take. Classes. I took a lot of classes personally. I took one called. There's a PSI Seminars is a really good personal growth class that I took. Sorry, I was we just ate lunch. I'm a little bit, my brain slowed down just a little bit. So yeah, definitely in-person classes. I mean, even if you wanted to go to, I did a lot of YouTube videos, reading, podcasts. I did a lot of podcasts, finding people that I look up to learn about all these different topics and become familiar with them. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the continual learning process is about acknowledging a lot of these things that are wrong with you. And that's okay because
wrong with you.
Yeah, and I use that loosely because there's a lot of things that are wrong with me, but it's also the things that I found that were wrong that put me in situations that make me better. Mm-hmm. The one example I have is my mom used to have fights with my dad about not finishing anything. And I remember these fights very clearly. My dad was just more of a people person. He was not very task oriented. He would start a lot of things, never finish them.
I don't know anybody like that.
We could talk about personality assessments. I can tell you what Mary is. But, he would start a lot of things, but just never finish them, and he got recognition. He wanted recognition from starting those things, but just never felt compelled to finish them. And I think in the back of his mind is like, I need to constantly have a problem to fix. And what's one way to have a problem to fix all the time than it is to leave everything. So my mom had an issue with that, and she would constant fights, never finish anything, never finish anything. So that pain still carries with me, and to the point now where I don't feel compelled or I don't feel satisfied unless I finish something. When I set up the room, when I set up this camera, when I set up all these things, I had to do it all in like a weekend. I couldn't wait. I couldn't be like one thing at a time. And when something didn't work, I was on Amazon ordering it again. So I understand a lot of that pain, that turmoil to not finish things where the origin of that came from. But I've learned that, hey, I need to use this as a tool. And I can't always be, I have to separate myself from that at times.
Yeah.
but it's a good tool to use, and it's acknowledgement that, hey, and I can express that to Violet. I can express it to other people. Hey, I have this really weird neuroses where I have to finish things. So just if you could please just let me finish it, I will feel a lot better as a person, and I can move on.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that I've discovered in that learning process that do benefit, but also hinder at the same time. So going back to that sense of balance, being able to articulate that to the people I admire and I love and that are very close to me, and say, you know what, I have this problem. It's going to benefit you in some ways, but it's going to definitely hold you back in some other ways.
Yeah, and I really feel like that process that you described came from self-discovery, right?
Yeah.
And so I was going to add a little bit to the part of learning of what I personally did was I started journaling again.
Yeah.
Because I started journaling about what I was going through, and you'd be really surprised when you start journaling and you just free journal, right, about whatever it is that's coming out. And the longer you do it, the more depth there is to the journaling. And sometimes you hit a realization in the journaling that, like that, maybe that could have been something you were journaling about that you hit. But I know I've had several like big aha moments through my writing and through my self-reflection, because it's all about learning about yourself, and journaling is a great way to do that.
Yeah, and I to caveat off that, I write poetry, and so it's a type of journaling, and in my time that I've written, I can look back and kind of tell where I was at the time. But yeah, I definitely believe in writing. I definitely believe in putting the thoughts on here, out here, to really look at, because that gives you a tangible sense of what those emotions are.
And just a little tip on journaling.
Another tip.
I can't read my own handwriting, so I finally bit the bullet and switched over to a OneNote journal, because I type probably as fast as I can talk. Anyway, it has opened up a whole new world for me. Yeah. So don't feel like it needs to be handwritten. If you type really fast, and I sit there like this and I type. Oh, is that the sound?
Oh yeah, that's true. You need that.
And I just like look up at the ceiling and everything from inside me. So experiment with different ways of journaling. Some people like to use a voice recorder to journal, or pen and paper, and I like to type.
Yeah, I think me and Mary are just heavy writers. I think we need to physically see it. I think depends, I guess, on the type of learning, or auditory, kinetic, or visual.
Play around with that. Learn what you are. Yeah.
So, and we're almost to the end of the show today. Can you believe that? It's been about 27 minutes.
Yeah, every time.
And so we're down to number 5. So if you like what you're seeing and you want a little bit more of us, every week we're here on Wednesdays talking about emotions, the inner journey with Miss Mary Van Alstyne. So we're down to number 5. So we've covered 4 other tips. So if you're writing down on the journal right now, if you have written everything down in distinct order. Or typed, whatever your preference is. Whatever noise you want to make. Number 5. You ready for this?
I am.
Are you ready?
I am ready.
Okay. So number 5, and this is probably the most challenging one out of all 5, is really finding an accountability partner.
Mm-hmm.
Having somebody hold you accountable to your actions and your thoughts is a bit of a challenge. Like I would say coming across Mary is spiritually, maybe connection, maybe accidental. I don't know, but it was definitely meant to happen. And I haven't found somebody that is very mindful as Mary is in her own emotions and able to convey those, and not a lot of people spend all the time in the tips that we've given to really explore that and really understand their own feelings and emotions. But to find somebody that's able to articulate that, back to me, that is significant. So I feel very lucky.
So do I.
We're going to give each other hearts. I don't have my clicker though. But to have somebody, and the hard part is really, I don't think it should be your intimate partner necessarily.
I think that's really something that you should think about. And just to say, I feel the same way, sir, about our relationship. And I don't think there are any accidents or synchronicities. It's all on purpose. So having it's really got to depend on the kind of relationship that you have, where you're at on your path, because that can be a sticky one to have as an accountability partner. So I definitely agree with you there. Yeah,
because your intimate partner tends to be somebody you lean your emotions on, not necessarily contemplate emotions with.
Or they could take things personally and get defensive if, depending on the headspace they're in. And I would say first with the accountability partner, once you've decided that that's what you're going to do, that is an intention. right? I'm going to, just like when you were saying that, before we actually connected again, you kind of put an intention out there about finding someone to have these conversations with, and then boom, like what happened, right?
She just showed up.
Yeah. Sometimes it can be that easy.
It's so funny. Like I was having these thoughts about finding somebody, not just for this show, but to really just bounce stuff off of. Because I have a good relationship with Violet, but there are some things that I don't know if she completely understands or has explored enough. And that's the other thing too. Sometimes your intimate partner really is not on the same path you are, or at least in the same place you are. And I think over time you kind of go back and forth and find this balance between the two of you, just like everything else. But there are other people that you need to kind of bounce stuff off of, especially if the stuff that you're going through deals with that other person. You kind of need that other person to give you kind of a gut check. And the hard part is, like, a lot of people in your life will either be will try to pull them down with you, or give you not bad advice, just advice based on where they're at, and they may not be completely collected or understand their own feelings or emotions. Yeah, and that's the challenge with trying to find an accountability partner.
Yeah, I would say just be very aware and in your intention of finding someone that is doing this same type of work and understanding, because all too often misery loves company, and people love to commiserate, and it can kind of turn into a little fest of complaining, right? Woe is me fest. So it's important when you write your intention that you want to find someone who is also in this stage of discovery and moving where you're moving, in that path. So
yeah, because I think a lot of people tend to put those values on there that are good or bad. This is good, this is bad. Hey, I've been married for 12 years and I'm having thoughts about other women. Why is that bad? I mean, it's not necessarily good, but I feel good that you've expressed those feelings to me, and maybe there's something you're missing. Maybe there's something you need to communicate with your spouse, that you're having these thoughts and feelings. What's culminated to this point? Have you always felt this way? There's just so many different avenues, and if you're with the wrong person, they're going to say, well, why? It's going to be one of those two thoughts. What's wrong with you? Why do you have those thoughts? Or, oh, hey man, I understand too, man. We should go to the strip club. I mean, there's different ways to manage that, but finding that person is like, oh, I understand where you're coming from, and yeah, I do have those same thoughts too, and that's quite all right. And, what is your intent with that? And why have you explored that? And where are you going with that? And that's the person that I think you want to focus in on, not the person that's either going to agree or disagree with you, because we do that way too much as it is.
And knowing someone who's going to hold you to a higher standard than and see you bigger than you see yourself, because that's got a lot of power in it itself, right? We're not crabs in a bucket trying to pull each other down. That analogy. It's so someone holding your hand and pulling you up, right? And seeing you bigger than you see yourself, and being able, so you can stand on their shoulders when you need to, right? And then they can stand on yours when they need to.
Which is the true essence of a friend.
Yeah.
So with that said, we're coming to the end of our show today.
All right.
It's been like 33 minutes.
Crazy.
Bringing you information, bringing you the top 5 tips for emotional balance. Is there any last things you want to say, Miss Mary?
I think we said a lot.
We said it all.
We said it all.
So again, we're here every week on Wednesdays to talk about feelings and emotions, bringing you tips and things that you can explore and really understand of yourself.
Yeah.
So until next week, Miss, we will say sayonara.
Ta-ta for now.
Goodbye for now.